asking my pregnant wife to leave after she pulled a prank by pretending to break up with me, leaving me feeling hurt and unsure if I overreacted. Family is divided, and I'm questioning if I went too far. So, my wife and I have been together for 3 years, and she's currently pregnant with our first child. For some context, I'm a surgeon and have always had long hours. This has been a known part of my life since before we started dating. Recently, she's been asking me to leave my job to do something with better hours like private practice, because she says we need more time together. While I totally understand her perspective, being a surgeon is what I've worked my entire life for, and my long hours are just part of that. I can't just flip a switch and move into clinic work. It's not that simple, and it's not what I trained for. Anyway, the other day, out of the blue, she says she doesn't want to be in this marriage anymore because of the issues we've been having. Mainly, she wants more of my time, which, as I said, isn't possible given my career. When she told me she wanted out, I just said, okay. I told her that I appreciate her being honest, and that if she truly feels like she can't be happy with me, I understand. I'm a secure person, and if she's not happy, I'm not going to convince her to stay with me just for the sake of staying together. She seemed surprised by my reaction and asked why I wasn't fighting for our marriage or trying to fix things. I told her that if I did, it would feel like I'm begging her to stay, and that's not what I want. If she's unhappy, she doesn't owe me a reason to leave. The point is that she doesn't want to be with me, and that's enough. This seemed to frustrate her even more. She said something like, "So you'd rather walk away than work on the reasons why I'm unhappy?" I told her it's not that. I would have been happy to have a conversation about making things work realistically, but she already decided she wanted out, and I firmly told her that I wasn't going to be in a situation with my partner where they expected me to beg or grovel for their love. I respect myself too much for that. She started crying and confessed that this whole thing wasn't real, that she was just testing me. She wanted to see how I would react because she's been feeling neglected with me, not being around enough, and she thought that breaking up would force me to address that. By that point, I'd already changed my mind. I told her I can't be with someone who would casually say they want to end our marriage just to get a reaction out of me. If she's willing to throw around the idea of breaking up so easily to make a point, that's a huge red flag for me. I told her I deserve a relationship built on mutual respect and commitment, and this isn't it. Now I've decided to leave. I've asked her to move to her parents' place, since the house is mine. She's pregnant, and I know this complicates things. But after what she did, I don't feel like this marriage is salvageable. Was I too harsh? Next story. Sleeping with my friends hall pass after they told me it was just for fun, but now they're upset, and I'm wondering if I crossed a line. I 49F have been friends with Sarah 49F for about 15 years. She's happily married, with 2 kids. I'm amicably divorced with a kid. We met at our children's preschool. We've been there for each other through some tough times. Sarah has a huge crush, I'll call him Jake, as long as I've known her. Jake is a popular, but not, like stadium-filling musician. From what I can tell, he makes a living, has had popular albums, and has toured with A-listers, but he's not necessarily a household name. He's in his late 40s. Sarah has never met him. She's been to several of his concerts and owns a bunch of merch and considers Jake her hall pass again. She's married and would never actually cheat on her husband. Honestly, her crush never seemed off the rails to me. Like she'd joke about him wooing her through IG. But she didn't, like, stalk him. So let me say here, I would never, even when I was younger, date or even flirt with a guy a friend of mine liked was interested in fries before guys, friends before men, all that. It just wouldn't be cool. However, a few weeks ago, I randomly met Jake at a charity event. He was hired as the entertainment. We got to talking, and one thing led to another, and I ended up sleeping with him. It was a one-time thing, fun, and we both knew it was casual. At first, I thought it was a funny, wild story to share with Sarah. After all, it's not like she would ever actually be with him, right? But when I told her, she looked really hurt. She wasn't mad exactly, but she said something like, "Wow, I can't believe you actually did that," and she's been distant ever since. I didn't think the friends before men rule applied here because he was basically her movie star crush, not a real romantic prospect for her. But now I'm second-guessing everything. I feel awful for upsetting her, but I genuinely didn't think it was that big of a deal. Was I too harsh? Next story.
Kicking my parents out of my house after they criticized my parenting and telling them, "This is why I was so messed up as a kid, now they're upset." And I'm questioning if I went too far. I had my parents over for dinner this weekend, 60s, and after my daughter 10 asked if she could play us a song she had been practicing on her keyboard, she gets lessons. It wasn't perfect. Few missed notes, a couple pauses, but she did really well. She looked up at the end, massive smile, and I started clapping and my parents started $G laughing. Not just a little chuckle. A massive $G bully laugh, them both. My mom asked if it was her first time playing it, and my dad said it had to have been. A dog could have played that better. It was like my daughter was shrinking on the spot, and she looked down and said, No. I've had 2 lessons, but doing it with 2 hands is hard, and they just laughed even F at G harder. I just stood up, took their cups, and said leave. Now my mom tried to say about how they hadn't finished their drinks. They wanted to hear another song at Sedek and said get your stuff and get the FF% out of my house right now. My dad started doing this huffing thing he does when someone dares to speak up to him, and my mom said that there was no need to be like this, that I can't protect her all the time and she preparing my daughter for the real world. I said it's not teaching the real world. They're just nasty little bullies picking on children and stuff like this is why I was so F% dollar DD, now leave. They got their stuff and left. I sat with my daughter and explained how proud of her I was and how well she was doing. To ignore them. They were just being cruel because they don't know any other way to be and asked if she could please play it again, which she did. On the Sunday I messaged and said that until they can behave like decent human beings that we're taking a break away from them. My dad replied that it was my choice, but he didn't realize he raised me to be so precious. Now my lovely brown-nosing golden child of a sister is getting involved. She phoned me today with my parents' version of events, telling me AI was a nasty piece of work and should never speak to my parents that way, that I'm wrapping my child in cotton wool and blah blah blah. I just told her to go F% herself and hung up. I'm not asking if I'm in the wrong for standing up for my daughter. I'll always do that. But I did go pretty 0100. I kicked them out straight away. I swore at them and in front of my daughter. I did raise my voice at the end when I said leave. I was, and still am angry. I don't think I'd even accept an apology from them at this point. This behavior isn't new. It's decades old. But this is the first time it affected my daughter.
Next story. Refused to watch photos and videos of a family member's wedding after I wasn't invited. Now they're calling me petty, but I feel justified in setting boundaries. I heard the grapevine that one of my first cousins on my dad's side, his sister's child, was getting married. Apparently it had been planned for months, but neither I 30F nor dad and I got an invitation. Another uncle, her uncle as well, did get invited and went to the wedding out of town, but we were clearly snubbed. No one, including this first cousin's siblings, my first cousins as well, said anything to us. We only heard through word of mouth from other extended family members. Keep in mind that my dad has a huge family of about 9 brothers and sisters plus their children, etc. I saw this cousin last year when I attended her dad's funeral, and we've talked periodically since then. As a child, she used to visit us, and we always took her around, hosted her, etc. So I'm not a stranger to her. She has a reputation for being selfish and spoiled, not the good kind, disrespectful and demanding. So when I found out that I wasn't invited, I was like, screw that, then I don't have any issues with her otherwise, but my extended family can be mean-spirited at times. My other aunt was invited to the wedding and told months in advance, but couldn't make it. The day after the wedding, and she messaged me saying that she will send me the wedding video link. Apparently, a YT video link was created for streaming ... but my cousin, nor her mom, or anyone planning the wedding called to give us an invite or tell us about the date. I sitting here thinking I wasn't invited. So why are you sending me a link to sit and watch a wedding that I was excluded from? I got mad and told her, thank you for reaching out to me, but I'm not interested in viewing the wedding. Then she told me, okay, I know it's still a difficult time for you. I will send you photos instead. It's not a difficult time for me per se, but ever since my parents divorced, there's been a pattern of me being left out of family events and gatherings, even though I live in the same area as most of them. It's neither here nor there, but I've moved on for the most part with my life and career. Then I told her, my storage is quite full. I don't want photos either. Isn't it kinda weird and rude to send photos, videos of a wedding to a family member who was clearly not invited? Was my aunt thinking? She knew my dad and I weren't invited because we told her beforehand. I don't feel entitled to be a guest at anyone's wedding. Yet if I'm not invited or wanted there and treated as an afterthought, I don't really care to engage or have anything with the couple. My mom thinks I shouldn't have said anything and let it go, but I think I had a right to stand my ground.